There's a number of different stages to getting to the point where you can really seriously build wealth. And I'm going to share that through my own personal journey and through my own lessons learned, but more importantly, how you can fast track your own journey. Depending at what age you are and where you are in your journey, it will depend on which stage you're in, but more importantly, what's the next stage for you. So we all start, especially in our juvenile days when we're with our parents, we are dependent. So the quickest transition we want to make from being dependent on our parents, on those that are looking after us financially. So normally we are kids and we grow up, and that's how current society has you going through college and university, which is to get good grades, whether it's a trade or whether it's to qualify to go into the workplace, or it might even be an evolution from college into university, because there's this idea that if you get a degree you're able to get a higher starting position or whatever it may be because you're more educated. That's not always the case. What I dislike about that system is that it's the conveyor belt of just teaching people to become what we believe is independent, but we're not, because technically what happens, we still have an element of dependency. It's because when you get that trade or when you get that college qualification, that degree then has some form of value, and that value is whatever the marketplace will pay for that position. So take my own personal experience. So I got a degree in IT, computer networking, and my first job at the age of 19 with a degree was £15,000 a year, and my family thought I was made. They were like, oh my god, just think when you work up that whole corporate ladder, you get those promotions, where will you be? And I was the type of guy, when I looked at those people who were in the senior positions in that IT business that I was working for, they were all in their late 40s or 50s, and they were only making anywhere between 50 and 60 grand as their top salary. However, they've had like 20 or 30 years experience under their belt. And I used to sit there and think, I don't want to wait until I'm in my 50s and 60s to be earning that kind of money. I want to be earning that money right now. And I looked at the next promotion. The next promotion would mean that I would get to £20,000 a year. Then the next promotion would be up small increments, like never big incremental jumps. It's not like you can go to your employer and say, hey, I want double my salary. It's just not going to happen. A lot of people, especially me when I was young, hungry and driven and motivated, I was giving my all in the workplace, because I get taught from a young age, if you're going to do anything, do it with excellence, right? So I was always doing things with excellence. I'm in early in the morning and the last one out, I'm going over and above the job, I'm taking on more responsibilities, I'm doing this, I'm working weekends, not getting paid. I'm doing all of that and I'm not getting paid any extra. And then I realised very quickly that that was an element of entitlement that's coming in. When everyone else was just clocking out at certain times, I knew I was getting noticed. It just wasn't happening in my timeline. And then what eventually did happen is that I was then getting a couple of jumps in my promotion before ultimately I realised that I'm still dependent on what that job will pay me and what that title is. And because I've got big goals and aspirations, I wanted to go out there and get involved in property, and that was a lure for me because I started to do a little bit of exploring into entrepreneurs and what do they do, and people was involved in property, and I had this bug for property, so that was something I started doing along the side. And hey, I ended up quitting my IT job, and when I quit, while I was building my property portfolio, it wasn't as if that I had lots of money. I was barely surviving, and it only lasted a few months before I had to go and get another job. And when I got that other job, this time working in construction, going down into basically the standard labourer job that you get in construction. I mean, fetching the coffees, digging holes, sweeping up. That's where I was. I was at the lowest position you could be. I just did not want to get back into IT. Very quickly, I then get put through my construction management degree and became a trainee site manager. So I got quick promotions through there. But equally, I'm investing in property as well. And regardless to what you do, for those that are employed, and I say this all the time to those that even work for me in the various businesses, you've got to think about your future. You've got to think about what do you strategically do with the money that you've got. You should be investing in what you can do, because once you've now got your assets producing you an income as well, truly that's when you can get away from dependency altogether, because no longer are you dependent on a salary. You can technically work for free if you choose to. Like for what I do for my property education company, it's free work. I don't get paid for doing that. I don't get paid for my mortgage business that I work with as well. I don't get paid. I'm talking about paying on a daily basis now. If those businesses perform, then sure, I get paid dividends and everything else. But if they don't perform, then I don't get paid. But it still makes sure everyone else is paid. It still makes sure those businesses run. But the reality is I'm able to have the fortunate position of moving from being dependent, whether it's being dependent on my parents, to being dependent on a job title and a job role, that ultimately if I did not keep on performing, I could lose my job. Ultimately to the point that it's very difficult to get those promotions in quick pace. Right? So again, what can you be doing along with whatever you're doing on the side at the moment with full-time employment, or even if you've got your own self-employed business? If you're a self-employed business owner and you're working in the business, you still have dependency, because you're dependent on your business. Is dependent on you showing up on a weekly basis, having to put time in, having to put effort in, having to find new customers, having to run the business, having to fulfill the business. That's still dependent on you. There needs to come a transition point where it's no longer you working in the business, you're working on the business, and that then starts to happen when you're able to grow the business by bringing on key staff and employees, key members into the team, outsourcing things as well, and having surplus profits to be able to scale and grow the business to the point is the business runs with or without you, which then means you're no longer dependent. So you go from being complete dependency to a sense of independence, but still dependent to a certain extent. And then when you become an investor where you have assets, which assets could be property, it could be stocks and shares, it could be businesses that you're invested in, you've transitioned from working into working on, or you've invested in other businesses. It could be anything. It could be anything that produces an income. There's many assets out there that you can put money in and lock it away for quite some time, and you're only going to see the upside over a longer duration. That's different. That's the next transition. Once you've got income coming in from your assets, now you become independent. You're no longer having to exchange your time for money, and that's the ultimate goal. Because the funny thing happens, when you are freed up, the best work that you can ever perform comes out, because you no longer have the concerns or worries about paying the bills. Because now what's going to be happening during all this process, because it doesn't happen overnight, is likely you've started a family, likely you've bought a house. All of that process happens of just trying to do life when we're trying to get through these different stages in life until you become independent truly, in the sense that money's coming in whether you're working or not. Then your best self will appear. And that best self can do whatever you truly want without the requirement of money to pay you to do it. Like, there's no better feeling to know that you could disappear and go on holiday. Now you're truly independent. And then the next phase there, which I am currently enjoying, think about it as if you're a farmer, right? You're putting out those seeds into the farm. So for me, I'm 37, and what I've been doing over the last 7 years since I turned 30 is I've been sowing. I've just been seeding and sowing, putting out, potential investments in different portfolios, different property, into different businesses, into different people, growing the businesses, doing all of this stuff. And I'm not ready to then harvest. And it could happen a lot quicker. It doesn't mean you need to be in your 40s or 50s to harvest. I'm in a season of sowing right now, putting different things out there, building stuff, which if one thing takes off and goes, great. If they all take off, even better. But I'm not dependent on all of them. I've got a number of things going. But we all start from somewhere, and we get to this position where you're involved in multiple different things, right? Where you're able to be the investor as such. And because you're making those strategic investments, each of those investments should be producing an income. And if one doesn't, it's easy enough to cut your losses. And it's not going to bring the whole house down as such, right? It's just one. I've had situations where I've had failed businesses, 2 in particular. Both of those businesses failed. I'm still standing here. Why? Because there's just 2 of many things that I was working on. But we need to work through this phases, and the quicker you can transition into each of these, the better. And then, which I've not yet experienced, is the harvest season. When you've got so much money from your assets that's coming in that you can't even invest all that money quick enough. And every time I've got surplus money, I'm putting it to work. I'm looking at other deals. Where can I do this? What can I invest in? Who can I invest in? What can I do? But there comes a certain point where there's a tipping point where you've got even more money, and that increases your lifestyle and everything else that comes with that. And at some point, you might start selling up some businesses, you might start offloading some of the portfolio, and you go through a proper, harvest season where you've built some serious generational wealth, that you've got some rock solid foundations going to look after your family, your loved ones, probably their family's family too. And that there is what the true game for me is all about. And it's going through all of that process. It doesn't matter where you are, and be strategic around it so you can navigate through each of these phases of building wealth. And you've got to be thinking about, how can I get more passive income? How can I start with an investment? How can I just get one investment in whatever vehicle you choose? Property is my vehicle I chose, and I was able to really start to build that and grow that until now it serves me even well. And because I've got that longevity of being in business and got that track record, you get more opportunities. You don't get those opportunities in the early days. I never got them, but longevity equals credibility, which then allows you to open up to have way more opportunities. And as the saying is, the more hard work and graft you put in at the beginning, it's going to pay you tenfold in your later years. If you're prepared to do what no one else will do over the next 12 months, then you can have what everyone else dreams of. It's as simple as that. Now, as always, I love to produce this content. It's something I love to do. I enjoy this. This is something that I want to do more of, and it always helps more when you guys are subscribed to the channel. And more importantly, if you've got any questions, pop them in the comment box. I'll be happy to go in there and answer those too. So all the best, and bye for now.